Hello, welcome back to my channel. And firstly, I'm Mary, and I have been thinking about this topic for a long time, not in a scientific way, more in a personal way, because I started noticing that even in a moment where nothing bad was happening, my mind still refused to rest. And I know a lot of people relate to this feeling. You finally sit down after a long day, nothing bad was happening, everything around you is quiet, no one is arguing with you, but your brain still feels busy, like it's searching for something, a problem, a future situation, a memory, anything. And suddenly you're thinking about an embarrassing moment from 3 years ago, or imagining a conversation that will probably never happen. And it's strange because logically you know you are okay, but mentally you don't feel okay. And I think one of the worst things about this is that people around you usually don't understand that. Because from the outside you look normal. You are functioning, you are learning, you are speaking, maybe even laughing sometimes. But inside your head, it feels loud all the time. And honestly, that kind of exhausting is hard to explain to people who never experience it because it's invisible, because no one sees how trying it is to constantly analyze everything to always feel mentally on. And sometimes people think overthinking means you are dramatic, but I don't think that's true. I think sometimes overthinking is just fear trying to become control. Your brain thinks if I think enough, maybe nothing bad will happen. And the scary part is sometimes this starts feeling normal. You get to use this noise in your mind, and that silence almost feels uncomfortable. You start needing distraction all the time, videos, music, talking to people, scrolling, anything to avoid to being alone with your thoughts. And finally, when things become quiet, your brain suddenly becomes louder. And you should to know the brain is not designed to make us peaceful all the time. Its first job is survival. Yeah, the first job is survival, and that's it. Your brain would rather to make you anxious and prepare than calm and unprepared. And honestly, when I understood that, I stopped hating myself as much because I realized my brain isn't attacking me, it's trying to protect me, just in very exhausting way. And I think a lot of people confuse awarenesses with feelings. They think if I understand myself, I should immediately change. But understanding yourself is only the beginning. You can understand exactly why you feel anxious and still feel anxious. You can know the reason behind your fear and still be afraid. Awareness does not magically remove emotions, and I wish more people talked about that honestly, because social media sometimes makes healing look very calm, very easy, very simple, and very fast and very clean. Like once you understand your trauma or your habits, you suddenly become good and quiet and emotionally stable. But let me tell you something. Real life is slower than that. Real healing is repetitive, sometimes boring, sometimes invisible, sometimes you're improving and you don't even notice it yet. And sometimes progress looks very small. Maybe last year you used to panic immediately and now you pause for 5 seconds before panicking. That still matters. Maybe before every thought controlled your whole day and now only half the day. That still matters too. But progress is not dramatic, we ignore it. We think I'm still struggling, so maybe nothing's changed. And to be honest, I don't think that's fair to ourselves. Another thing I realize is that many people are emotionally exhausted, not because life is always hard or difficult, but because their mind can't rest. Even during rest, they are thinking and thinking and thinking, analyzing people, analyzing the future, analyzing themselves. And after a while, your own mind starts feeling like noise. Sometimes I wonder how many people are carrying silent anxiety without even realizing it because they become so used to it. Being tense feels normal, overthinking feels normal, expecting bad things feels normal, and when calm finally appears, it feels unfamiliar. And I also think many of us become addicted to mental stimulation. We don't know how to simply exist anymore. Every second needs to be felt. If we are not watching something, we are scrolling. If we are not scrolling, we are thinking. If we are not thinking, you are we are feel uncomfortable. And maybe that's why silence feels heavy now. Not because silence is bad, but because Silence reveals how loud our minds actually are. Something else I had to learn is that not every thought deserves attention. This actually changed a lot of me because before every thought felt important. If my brain said, "What if something bad happened?" I immediately reacted emotionally. But now I try to pause and remember a thought is just a thought. Not prophecy, not reality, not always true. And honestly, our brains create weird thoughts all the time. Sometimes irrational thoughts, sometimes embracing thoughts, sometimes anxious thoughts. That doesn't define who you are. It just means you have a human brain. I think people become more peaceful when they stop treating every thought like an emergency, when they stop panicking over every emotion, and when they stop trying to fix themselves every second. Because currently, trying to fix yourself can also become exhausting. Sometimes you don't need another productivity video. Sometimes you don't need more advice. Sometimes you just need rest, real rest. Not distraction, not scrolling until your brain shuts down, real rest. And I know that's difficult, especially when your mind keeps pulling you back into noise. Maybe pace starts very small. Maybe pace starts when you stop fighting yourself all the time. Maybe starts when you stop asking, "Why am like this?" and you start asking, "What is my brain trying to protect me from?" That question feels softer, less judgmental, because I don't think healing happens through self hatred. I don't think people become calmer by bullying themselves into peace. And honestly, being gentle with yourself helps more than people realize. Not lazy, not careless, just gentle. Because your brain learns this parents for a reason. It doesn't randomly become anxious. Usually, there's history behind it: disappointment, fear, experiences, pressure, stress, and your brain adapted the best way it knew how. So maybe instead of hating yourself for overthinking, you can start becoming curious about yourself instead. Not what is wrong with me, but what happened to me made my brain feel like it always needs to stay alert. I think that question changed everything. And no, understanding yourself will not magically solve your life. You will still have difficult days, you will still overthink sometimes, you will still feel anxious sometimes, but maybe you'll stop feeling at war with yourself all the time. And honestly, that alone changes a lot. And I also want to say something important. Please, please don't romanticize suffering. Please don't romanticize suffering. Being emotionally is good. Understanding psychology is interesting. Overthinking is not intelligent, and being mentally exhausting is not something that makes someone deeper or better than others. Sometimes suffering is just suffering, and it deserves care, not glorification. And I think a lot of people online accidentally build identities around being sad or anxious, and after a while they become afraid to let go of their pain because it becomes familiar. But you are allowed to heal, you are allowed to become calmer, you are allowed to feel okay without losing your depth. I think that's something many people need to hear. You don't have to stay mentally exhausting forever just to feel understood. And maybe healing is not becoming a completely different person. Maybe it's simply becoming less afraid of your own mind, less controlled by it, less overwhelmed by every emotion that passes through you. And maybe peace is not a destination, maybe it's moments. Small moments where your mind becomes quieter, small moments where you breathe without fear, small moments where you stop overanalyzing everything. And maybe those moments are enough for now. I am still learning this too. I still have days where my thoughts feel too loud. I still have moments where I spiral for no reason. But I think I am slowly learning not to believe every thought my brain gives to me, and honestly, that already feels lighter. So if your mind feels tired all the time, I hope you remember this. You are not weak for struggling to relax. Your brain probably learned staying alert feels safer. And unlearning that takes time, more time than people admit. So be patient with yourself, not because everything is okay, but because you deserve kindness while figuring things out. And that's all I wanted to say today. Take care of yourself. Not goodbye. See you next video.